you do get to them by faith because you have to presuppose
How?
them.
Presuppositionalism is literally faith in something you cannot prove.
Presupposing verificationalism is faith.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
No, it isn't.
Yes, it is.
Bullshit. You're bullshit. That is
faith.
so
putting
saying
your
that
faith in your
I'm
senses.
so presupposing something without verifying it objectively is not faith. That's your opinion.
I think the main thing for me, I say that the issue I have is not specifically with faith itself, is by using only faith to try to determine the nature of the universe.
So
not using by saying I get to God because I have faith in God. I have faith in God because I believe God exists, so forth and so on. Using faith as a justification, using faith, I should say faith and faith alone, as justification for your belief in something that is non-falsifiable. Faith in something that can't even be tested.
But all presuppositions.
Can I just say that all truth is subjective, right? Like
is it subjectively true that all truth is subjective, or is it objectively true that all truth is subjective?
Okay, now you're getting too meta for me, Cam.
No, it's a basic contradiction in terms. Either it's subjectively true that truth is objective, which is a consistent statement, or it's subjectively true that.
I would say that it's an exception to the rule, right? That's what you have to make within the
Yeah, you have to accept these exceptions, that they are exceptions on faith. It's faith. It's always faith.
Well, no. Faith is not the. Hold on. When you say faith means that you fully accept that thing. People who have these conceptions understand the fallibility of them, right?
Okay, do you want me to change it to belief?
Faith is fundamentally different than this, right? Faith is the belief that you think that this is fundamentally true irrespective of evidence. There's nothing that could contradict this. You think it is fact. People who believe in verificationism, right? They do not believe that this is infallible fully. They understand the limitations of their foundational beliefs. There's an entirely huge distinction between these two things.
And also,
you guys cannot make an apples-to-apples comparison.
When I say faith, he was talking to me.
Yes, but I was also involved in this conversation at some fucking point in time, and I'd like to make a statement.
By that logic, everybody can jump in.
A lot of people aren't talking, but I was definitely a part of this goddamn conversation. So anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that even if you can blow all of our arguments out of the water, let's say you were able to disprove everything we were to believe in right fucking now, like just in one conversation, you still are not one iota closer to proving the existence of God. Because you have provided no evidence for your claim.
But I have faith that if I did provide evidence, you would just Google. If I provided X, you would just Google
I've
X
already
debunk.
explained to you that this is not analogous. We do not have faith. We do not have faith in our claims. We do not have faith in our claims. We understand the limitations of our foundational assessments.
So when I say faith, I don't mean absolute adherence blindly without any
you just
concept
relabel it to encompass axioms, and then you're basically gonna say we're having faith, so that you can sound like you've got one over on us. No. This continuous fucking stack of shit.
But don't you have absolute faith in your
The ad hom is strong with this one. When I say I might have been misspeaking, belief, belief without evidence. How about that? It doesn't mean absolute belief. Because you told me that my faith is the idea that I believe something without any concept of evidence whatsoever. That's not how I've been thinking about it.
Am I experiencing something here? Are we experiencing something? Are you experiencing something?
I think so.
Are you a mind?
I think so.
Can you know that for sure?
I can know that for sure because I think so.
Oh, I think therefore I am.
Yeah.
Prove that.
Well, I can't prove it to you, but I can prove it to me. And you can prove it to you.
Okay, are you saying something right now, Zero?
I hope so.
Do you know so?
No one knows so.
Do you know anything, Zero?
Wasn't that true?
I know that I think.
Do you know anything, Zero?
I know that I think. I believe that I
You know that you think. How do you know that you think, Zero?
Because I couldn't think if I did not know. And I couldn't know if I did not think.
How do you know that?
Bro, you sound like fucking Dark Jesus.
You are sounding kind of like Dark.
No, how do you know that?
Doesn't matter, just let him go.
How do you know that, Zero?
Because I think that. And I think that because I know that. And I know that because I think that.
So in your worldview, everything's faith-based reasoning. Everything's belief-based reasoning insofar as an unjustified belief.
I know that I think.
So everything is unjustified. Is everything that you're saying ever unjustified?
Can I finish what I was saying?
No, you're going to answer my question. Is everything that we believe ever unjustified? Is any statement that we ever make unjustified entirely?
Okay, that's a dark type statement.
That's a false dichotomy. Entirely is saying entirety is to make a truth claim, and even my worldview doesn't contain that.
Okay, so you can't make any claims. You're not doing anything. You're just not.
It would be so if you were to say is it true that everything is unjustifiable? If you were to say that, then I would say, well, how would I? Can you justify that it's true that everything is unjustifiable? And you would have to appeal to false reasoning. All I know that I think, and I think that I know, and I believe what is past that.
Okay. So, do the laws of logic exist here?
I believe they do.
Okay, but you don't know they do.
Do you know they do?
Well,
I'd
we
say
can
I
show that they apply.
How do you know they do?
Do I know that I am indeed talking right now and not
How do you know that you're talking
and
right now?
not talking at the same time?
How do you know that you're talking right now?
Because I've observed it through my sense perception.
And how do you know that your observations are correct? I can play this game too. Okay, now we have the same worldview. What do you fucking do?
I swear to God, you just... I think you fucking like use the fucking, how do you
That we
sense
had
percent
no
justification
justification
Look.
for presuppositions, and then we just moved on from there.
This is all to prove a point, right? That fundamentally we all have to make fundamental assumptions about the nature of reality, right? And either those assumptions get you to the laws of logic in which I'm making coherent statements, right? You know, this glass is here, it isn't not here at the same time in the same ways, in the same exact time, in the same exact place, right? And in just the same way that, you know, nothing would be coherent if that really was in place, right? So,
So let's just assume our presuppositions are unjustified and we can't justify them and move on from there. Let's stop with the whole, well, how do you know this and how do you know that?
Essentially what I'm saying is
look.
the difference between
Autistic Philosophy for Dummies. You could write that book, okay? And basically, you open the book and it's just big print, right? I don't know, right? That's very useful, Zero, right? But the rest of us who are serious people, right, jump past that. The load of I don't know.
Yeah, we have a faith in the illegitimacy of solipsism. We share a religion.
About the abortion argument we having earlier before the whole entire belief system on page to page.
Yeah, Zero, you're an idiot.
We got here organically. So.
I'm an idiot. Get fucked. Great argument. You win.
The only reason the argument even came forth because of like an invasion of the abortion argument in the first place. Each wanted to attack the other person's belief foundation rather than the actual argument.
No, it's because the actual arguments are based off of normative worldviews, and normative worldviews are derived from beliefs.
So we've reached the conclusion at this point that no discussion we have on abortion should go out that place.
You can do either argument.
So the problem is that with most things like homosexuality, for example, most religious people don't like it within the Christian, Jewish, Muslim religion, etc. But the thing is that it doesn't hurt them, and it doesn't hurt people that they value because it's consensual between adults, and if the adults want to, wrong their own souls in the Christian or Muslim's opinion, they're free to do that.
No, it's also a collective problem. That's why it's also a problem for them.
The problem with abortion is that Christians, Muslims, and Jews, or some Jews, believe that there is sanctity to a certain amount of life, and therefore, even though it is on the basis of purely normative claims that are derived solely from non-evidential belief, it's still relevant. So that's why every argument of abortion essentially goes down to either statistics or religion. And the thing about statistics is that statistics say what is, and you can't derive an ought from an is. So even if you had the statistics, it doesn't provide a solution.
This is one of the most pointless discussions I ever heard on this server.
So if we can't provide any evidence for anything because we're not 100% sure that we know it's true evidence, what's the point of having any conversation?
Yeah, there isn't a point.
That's not what I'm saying.
You totally got the point of Zero shtick right now,
That's
right?
literally just pure naive.
Look, I care and I don't care at the same time. Is this meaningful? Is this particularly a meaningful statement? Absolutely not. That's not a particularly meaningful statement. And the second that you're talking to somebody who makes the claim that everything is assumption, so you can't make any claim, that person is not a person you want to have a serious conversation with, ever.
No,
this is someone floating in space and you should leave them floating there.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I have beliefs, but what I'm saying is that you guys, or some of you, are exceptionalists. I am a universalist, and that is a major difference. If I believe in an axiom, and if, axioms are believed, you can talk about whether or not they're true, but they're believed. Yeah, they're believed.
They're not. It's a
They're assumptions.
But look,
I define belief as-
don't tack on other things to axiom. Axioms are foundational assumptions about the nature of reality.
Okay, let's say they're assumptions. I believe
Just assumptions. Okay, great.
I believe that axioms are universal and that if something is true, I don't believe that there are exceptions to truth. Exceptionalists believe that there are exceptions to truth. So, in verificationism is the exception to the truth of verificationism. I don't believe that verificationism is right there. Whereas circular reasoning can both be an exception and not an exception, and therefore circular reasoning can be legitimized. Now, it might not be able to be legitimized within the realm of causality, and therefore only applies to epistemology. But again, it is justifiable.
So you can't have a single conversation with any normal person, basically.
That is not what I said!
No, I want you to have one using whatever it is you just said. Have a normal conversation with somebody.
I have normal conversations every day. I go on Discord, so I have conversations that aren't normal. If I wanted normal conversations, I'd talk to
No,
normal
that's not what he's saying. He's saying try to have a sort of a discussion that doesn't lead to we can never know. That's what he's trying to say.
So the discussion that ends at the end and we can never know is a discussion wherein people both have the same primary
That's
assumption.
not necessarily the
But
case.
Zero, how do you know that we don't know anything?
I don't know. I know that I know.
So it's possible that we can know something.
It's possible that we can know something.
Then what's the point of saying we can't know anything?
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Do you not know and know at the same time, in the same place, in the same ways?
Can you prove the law of non-contradiction without appealing to the law of non-contradiction?
No, I can appeal to it through sense perception.
Is it circular to pick up a pen to see if it works?
Look, you observe the laws of logic, Zero. You don't get to the laws of logic just by virtue. It isn't like it's instilled in you. You observe it.
Yeah, see, that's the one problem I have with theists.
Well, if it's just an observation,
Are you really going to just sit there? Are you going to sit there? Okay. I warned you earlier, Zero, that you are talking over me, and you keep doing it. I want to make a point. I've been waiting patiently to make a point, and I've been listening. The point I want to make is that you can't even, the problem I have with theists, right, is when they claim that, what the fuck I was going to talk about now, because you fucking talked over me. Wait, we were talking about the, knowledge claims, what the fuck were you even talking about?
And the conversation.
I love
I doubt anybody.
I've been waiting, and then I had off the train of thought.
Yeah,
I doubt anybody.
That's the whole issue I have with you talking about.
It's hard
I'm trying to play a video game. I can't do 5 things at once. I can talk and play a video game, or I can listen and play a video game, but I can't do all 3.
Yeah, like I doubt anybody here would say that picking up a pen and using it to see if it works is circular.
All I gotta say is the conversation that destroyed the IQ of everybody in the room.
That's really cute. I just stopped listening after a while. Kind of a circle jerk.
When Zero said when Zero said, "Can you prove the law of non-contradiction without appealing to the law?" It's so clear that he didn't listen
I
to
remember
the
what
words
was
that
saying.
I said.
I did listen. It doesn't.
Okay, how do you get to the laws of logic? Can you...
So you have to
wait.
use
You have to use axiom.
exceptionalism to get to
Wait,
the
you have
laws
to
of
what?
logic. You have to use exceptionalism.
No, you don't. You don't have to say that there's an exception. You
You
assume.
cannot.
How do you assume without the laws of logic?
Let me make my point, since I remember what the fuck I was going to say now.
Okay,
what I was going to say was that you take the laws of logic and you work backwards from there. Many theists do that, and I find that to be, they say, well, these laws of logic were created or exist for a reason or something like that, instead of just saying what the fact is, that these are just things that we have observed as sentient beings in our universe. These are not something that, they do not exist. I mean, they do apply, but they don't exist without having us they don't exist as a manner of a philosophical meaning, I should say, without human beings there to use them. They're not, I would say take them and use them, I mean observe them and use them, you know what I mean? It's something that we've observed to be true in our environment, not something that not some rule that can never be broken, especially if...
Exactly. Because the reason why it can never be broken is because, listen, the only steps that you can meaningfully take is sense perception to laws of logic. Then forward. That's it.
You say you have to assume it. How do you...
So let me address what Snack said. Snack said that the laws of logic are not things that are a priori. They are something we observe in our...
There's laws of reason, actually.
Yeah. They're things that we observe in our reality. And I do need to speak about being interrupted because I'm quite forgetful. But the problem with this is that, yeah, you can argue that. You can definitely argue that. But the problem once you do that is that once something is observed in nature, then the rule of correlation not equaling causation will lead you to understand the fact that you have no justification for the universalization of perceived axioms.
Yeah, you're right. And I'm, but still,
so I could argue that let's say if I believed in the Bible, I could argue that any contradiction in the Bible is an exception, because correlation doesn't equal causation, and that axiom might not be universal, and you can't prove that it's
again,
not.
how would you...
The only means by which, listen, the only means by which you can dismantle the laws of logic are with the laws of logic. The second you start trying to curtail the laws of logic, you're already using them. Do you understand the issue?
I understand
It's
the issue.
circularity.
It's that kind of a question.
It's circularity, Zero. You're using circular reasoning.
Unless you're arguing that you're like a robot that's been programmed to say what you're saying and you have no reasoning or thought on your own, you don't think independently, and there's no way for you to say anything.
Zero, you're on such a... I really envy you because you're on such a hard... your points that you're in, the argument that you're trying to defend is such a hard one. Because you really can't get to any meaningful point, because all the things that you are trying to dismantle and try to say, we don't know, the exact way that you're trying to get to that I don't know point is using the laws by which you have to assume, quote unquote. Right? Do you understand how that's asinine?
I understand how it's circular.
No, it's asinine. It's fucking retarded.
Hey, dude, watch your language. Just because we're on the web doesn't mean you can be a complete jerk.
So yeah, like you can say it's asinine, you can say it's retarded.
It is, because
hang on.
to make a statement in the first place about this subject, you are already conforming to the law of prediction. You are already using the laws of logic.
Question. I'm interested in what Mike has to ask me because I want this to be about me.
Honesty at its finest.
What do you mean by evidence?
What do I mean by evidence?
Yeah.
It means any piece of
empirical observations.
Yeah, anything that you can physically show or observe to be true. I mean, and can be repeated. Like, for example, I could say it is true that when I pour Rice Krispies, they will say snap, crackle, and pop. Except for when they say pop, snap, and crackle. So then if I tested enough time, well, that's really dumb.
So,
I think 2 plus 2 equals 4 is the easier argument.
Okay, anyways,
so what
I want to know zero.
like,
Hold on, I want to know zero down on this before we move on. So Zero, do you see the problem with invoking the laws of logic to try to dismantle the laws of logic? Do you see how it's not meaningful?
I see how it's not meaningful to use circular
Okay, so
reasoning
it's not
in a,
meaningful. It's nothing about what you're saying.
but
To say
you're,
that it is meaningful is to say that it does not contradict itself. What you're saying is contradictory, then I don't even know what you're saying. You're saying nothing then. If
You want to talk?
you're not saying something at the same time, it is meaningless. You're not saying anything at that point, right? Do you understand?
I understand what you're saying, but you're invoking something called meaning as opposed to non-meaning, and these things are fundamentally arbitrated by presuppositions. And presuppositions must be justified in a
Sure.
circular
Okay.
manner.
Can your whole worldview be condensed down to I don't know, but I guess that I don't know and I do know at the same time, at the same exact time.
My worldview can be
Is that what you're saying? I don't know, but I guess that I also don't know that I don't know at the same time. For some reason, these are contradictory statements because I don't presuppose the laws of logic. So, what exactly does your worldview say anything about explanatory power at all? What are you explaining to me if you're explaining nothing to me?
So what I'm saying, my worldview can be condensed down to this. I don't know. I mean, well, not I don't know. It can be condensed down to I think that I know.
The Earth is triangular. This is the most fucking stupid shit I have ever seen in my whole life. Oh my god. I am dying.